Hey there, welcome back to another weekly news recap here on Bald Prairie Real Estate. My name is Matthew Pfeifer, real estate agent in Regina. That's my trusted assistant, Matilda. And no, the title is no joke. I've got a way here that you can get into real estate for as little as $100. Although the business model is really creative, it could also be really risky. And also, I want to cover a bunch of really interesting rent-related topics for this week's news recap. But as always, let's start off with another terrible joke. You don't have to worry about your TV and smartphone spying on you because the vacuum has been gathering dirt on you for years. If you have a terrible joke that I can use in a future episode, put it in the comments below. Let's get into the news. This first topic is a Vancouver real estate developer that has $700 million in debt and is now in bankruptcy protection. And I've seen a lot of people saying, see, this is an example of developers going bankrupt and how bad things are going to get in the Canadian real estate market. Now, first of all, I have no doubts that there is going to be more developers that are going to go bankrupt, and we're going to see more pain from this downward correction that we're in right now in the Canadian real estate market. But this developer in particular is not an example of the industry as a whole. They were playing a very high-risk game of musical chairs, basically, and the music has stopped on them now. What they would do is they would buy into projects or buy projects outright, buy land, and then immediately refinance that project to then go buy more. And this works really well when the real estate market is appreciating, like it has been for many, many years in Vancouver. But as soon as the market is no longer appreciating, you have over-leveraged absolutely everything, well, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And that's exactly what's happened with this developer. Now let's talk about jobs numbers in Canada, where 150,000 new jobs were added in just a single month. That is on the heels of last month's 100,000 new jobs added. But in the news release, they also revised down that number from 100,000 to 70,000. For the life of me, though, I can't figure out how you get it that wrong. Like, that's not just a little mistake, that's a massive mistake. So if you're someone that knows how they calculate these job numbers, let me know in the comments below, because I'd actually like to learn that. But also, the Bank of Canada is basing interest rate decisions partially on these jobs numbers. And if they're getting it that wrong, that of course is going to potentially give the Bank of Canada bad information when they may raise rates or drop rates when they shouldn't, because they're getting the bad information for jobs. Now, in this article, and I'll link it below, the CIBC spokesperson, was one of their economists, said that when you're adding 150,000 jobs in a month, that's not the signs of an economy on the verge of a recession. Everybody's been talking that we're going to have a recession this year, absolutely for sure. Well, when you're adding 100,000 jobs and then 150,000 jobs, even if they revise those numbers, that's not the signs of an economy on the verge of recession. That's according to CIBC. That's not me saying that. That's that CIBC spokesperson. But if this continues to happen, the Bank of Canada is going to have more incentive to raise interest rates even more than they already have. Next up, let's talk about affordable housing in Calgary, where they continue to lose affordable housing. About 3,000 units have been lost in the last 30 years. That's about a 60% drop. And of course, the population of Calgary has increased by over 500,000 people in that same time frame, making that problem even worse. And of course, Calgary is not the only city that's seeing this affordability problem. This is across Canada, where we are not building enough purpose-built rentals, and definitely not enough of the more affordable, especially low-income rentals in Canada. And speaking of Calgary's rental, we'll be talking about that in a later article, because the price of rent in Calgary is really increasing rapidly. This next article here is a really interesting one, and it taught me a lot of things that I hadn't even really thought about. So like I do with all the articles, I'll put the link in the description below so you guys can read it yourselves. And in this case, they're talking about Canada's immigration policy. Now, officially, Canada is set to welcome about 500,000 people to Canada in 2023. But those numbers don't include anybody coming to Canada on a temporary foreign worker visa, international students, or anybody else that's coming here temporarily. They, of course, will not potentially be living here full time, but they're still going to need somewhere to live while they're here. So we had 1 million people come to Canada last year. We're likely to see 1 million new people come to Canada this year. That is going to put a significant strain. It already is putting significant strain on our rental market. We're seeing the Canadian population increase at levels we haven't seen since the 1970s. And while last year we had a record year for the number of homes that were started, it was about 250,000, and that's been pretty consistent. Around 200, 250,000 is a good year in Canada. That, of course, pales into comparison to the population growth that we're seeing in Canada. And when we have fewer and fewer purpose-built rentals being built in Canada, that is part of why we're seeing such significant strain on the rental market in Canada. And if that wasn't bad enough, and rental affordability is hard right now, well, buying a new house, and it's hard already, is likely to get worse, because in 3 to 5 years, a lot of these people that have come to Canada are going to be looking to purchase a house. They've now become established, so that is going to put even further strain on the Canadian housing market that already has a lack of homes available. You're gonna have more buyers fighting over fewer homes. We need to see more homes get built in Canada to match up with our immigration policy, or it's going to make this housing crisis worse. This next report is from rentals.ca. They do a monthly rental report. They go across the country and look at what's going on with rent. Year over year, Canada-wide, rent increased about 11%. It is down 0.5% from December. That's not surprising, though. Typically November, December, January are weaker months. That's when you see rents decrease. And then as the spring market kicks off, just like in the resale market, rent prices also typically increase as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in the next couple of months. But with how much pressure is on the rental market right now, don't be surprised if you see rent increasing. What was really interesting out of this article was that for the apartment and purpose-built rentals, Alberta saw the largest year-over-year increase at over 14.5%. That beat out Ontario and BC. Of course, in BC, for example, which is the most expensive rental market in Canada, rents are 72% more for the same property as they are in Alberta. So while Alberta is still increasing rapidly, it pales in comparison to how expensive it is to rent property in BC. Now let's talk about the title of this video, and that is Owning Real Estate for $100. Nope, it's not a joke. Now this article is about Retium Technologies. Again, links in the description below, where they are offering fractional ownership for as little as $100. You can buy into a real estate deal. So these are deals where they're renovating a project, a flip, or they're doing a brand new construction. You can finance these and then you will receive a share of the profits should this project turn a profit. Of course, these are potentially very high risk. One of the competitors that's a little more established in this space is a company called 𝗬𝗲𝗍, and actually they are available in Saskatchewan because Retium is only available in BC, Ontario, and I think it was Manitoba, so I couldn't check them out in more detail. But 𝗬𝗍𝗍 is one of the competitors that is available in Saskatchewan, so I set up an account, and I'm probably going to do a video series. So let me know in the comments below if you want me to do this, where I'm going to go look at some of these projects and maybe invest in this and then have you guys follow along to see how it turns out. But I could see this fractional ownership becoming a larger player in the Canadian real estate market and evolving from just financing construction or renovation projects to actually owning a portfolio of real estate. So crowdfunding essentially ownership of, say, a rental building. You'll become a shareholder in that building and any profits would be divvied up, obviously proportionate to the shares, through each of these owners. This is, I think, a really interesting business concept. It's also one that, of course, is high risk. If you look at these deals on 𝗬𝗍𝗍, for example, there's a lot of them that get rated as high risk. You have to understand that when you put this money in, you may not get it back at all, let alone see a profit. But let me know in the comments below, would you guys be interested in a video series on fractional real estate ownership? And would you get into some of these fractional ownership deals or not? Let me know in the comments below. Of course, you're going to want to know what's going on in the Canadian real estate market if you're looking to get into some of these deals. So why don't you check out right there my monthly Canadian real estate market update. Please leave a like on this video if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button so you can keep updated on the Canadian real estate market. Leave comments below so I can chat with you guys in the comments section below. And as always, thanks very much for watching.